Hello, people. We're back.
This time I'm allowed to commentate.
He's good.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do this.
Got bopped at Chantilly, so here in top 8 with my friend Tito, looking for an exciting set with Ajit Unnam versus Alvin Hidayat, both of which are basically using teams that are things I helped with.
Yeah, so I'm going to be leaning on you a lot because I saw.
Lean on me, baby.
I saw Alvin play earlier.
Yeah.
So.
You saw Ajit play too.
And I saw Ajit play too. So both their teams actually looked really, really cool. So.
Yeah, I would say so.
Top 8. And you guys are good to go whenever you are ready, and they've already started. Perfect.
So since I'm super familiar with both teams, I will take the lead on it real quick. Ajit is using the beautiful Snorlax and his friends Scrafty, Kartana, Porygon 2, Manectric, Tapu Fini. As many of you might recognize, this is the team that Alvin, ironically, won St. Louis with. Whereas Alvin is bringing a squad of the fairly unattractive Metagross, Scrafty, Gothitelle, Tapu Koko, the beautiful Snorlax, and Landorus T, which our friend Nails made top 4 at Collinsville with. So the matchup between the two is quite interesting. Both teams are heavily reliant on setting up Snorlax, but in extraordinarily different ways. Manectric and Porygon 2 and Scrafty try to use a passive way to reduce damage for Snorlax, whereas Alvin's team, well, I guess Nails' team, as we've seen on screen, tends to rely on both the Intimidates, but also the Tapu Koko to reduce damage. So both of which we might see some fun stuff, trying to get Snorlax all set up. The Gothitelle on Alvin's side of the field will be very interesting for Ajit to deal with. So let's get cracking.
Yeah, I'm still kind of undecided on how I feel about Gothitelle as a Pokemon. I obviously understand that it's good, but there are some it's a very linear Pokemon. You kind of know what you get with it. Its move pool isn't really as diverse as, like, say, Cresselia, which is the other thing that you would run in that
Well, to be
slot.
fair, though, right, you have everything it pretty much needs, right? It has Psychic and Trick Room, it has Hill Pulse, it has Helping Hand, it has Charm if you want it. It has basically all that you could want. So we see leads coming through from Ajit. He brought Manectric, Tapu Fini, and Alvin brought Scrafty, Tapu Koko. We see Misty Terrain go first before Alvin's Electric Terrain, which gives us a hint as to Tapu Fini's item seems to be the Choice Scarf set. So considering that, it looks like because of Lightning Rod, Tapu Koko is unable to hit the hit the Tapu Fini, but Scrafty has Fake Out Pressure, and Tapu Koko can do some other fun stuff.
Yeah, the whole speed tier things with Tapus is probably one of the most important kind of things you have to do when constructing a team. Right. It's just not with the introduction of the actual terrain system, it made speed tier and speed creeping a lot more important than it has previously in terms of who you're going to get terrain with. But we see right here, Ajit going ahead and bringing in his own Scrafty to go ahead and get some Intimidate damage off as well as Fake Out Pressure from himself.
An interesting turn considering that Tapu Fini had a lot of pressure against the Scrafty with Moonblast. Now I know that Scrafty had Fake Out against the Tapu Fini, but if Lightning Rod stayed preserved, it was difficult for Koko to actually deal with the Fini. But it seems like Ajit might have been scared of a Gothitelle in the back to keep the Tapu Fini locked into Moonblast. We see Fake Out coming into the Scrafty. And
the Volt Switch. Yeah, definitely the Volt Switch. From the Manectric, we're going to go ahead and return back here.
Yep.
So he revealing the Scrafty. We'll see what he decides to switch into from that Volt Switch.
Now, it's important to note that Ajit Mega Evolved the Manectric, so there is no freedom from Volt Switches on the Tapu Fini side of the field. The Tapu Fini has to be scared. That was a light screen coming out from the Tapu Koko, so that's going to make it very difficult for Ajit to do damage with the Tapu Fini, but fortunately Kartana's a physical attacker.
Yeah, how do you feel about the use of light screen on this team? It's not a really common move that we see a lot on Tapu Kokos. How do you, what in an ideal situation, what's the purpose of the light screen?
So it's an interesting way to reduce the damage on their side of the field. Light screen is something you can't really, besides Snarl, you can't really reduce damage on the special side. You can't really passively do so. You have Fake Out and you have Snarl and you have things like that, but Light Screen actually just reduces the special damage. And that helps set up Snorlax. We see Kartana go straight for a Bloom Doom after Tapu Koko gets a Fake Out taken from Ajit's Scrafty. There's no Reflect Up, and Ajit is not at -1, so this Bloom Doom should, if it goes into Koko, take it out. If it goes into Scrafty, it'll be close.
So it's going to go into the Coco, being able to pick up that KO pretty easily here, especially given as percent, not even needing the grassy terrain, which normally would accompany it. But there it is, going to pick up the KO onto Tapu Koko.
Yeah, and I see Tito putting out a beautiful gray icon for that Tapu Koko. I like it. We see the foul play come out from the Scrafty. Foul play is an interesting choice that's there to attack other Snorlax after it's set up, and with Stab, it takes it out most of the time. But even though Kartana's at +1, the foul play did not knock it out thanks to its substantially significant physical defense.
So here comes the Gothitelle.
Right. The mon we were iffy about.
Yeah, so again, now that I'm understanding how the team works in general, I'm really liking the Gothitelle more and more as I'm seeing Alvin kind of play it out.
With the screens, you reduce the damage. Goth can keep things, especially, for example, Zard Y after an overheat, or after Kartana just used its Bloom Doom, it's not doing an insane amount of damage if it didn't take a +1, things like that. Unfortunately for Alvin, he seems to be a bit behind. Kartana not taking the knockout, or not getting knocked out there, means +1 Leaf Blades are going to hurt. We can probably assume Alvin has Snorlax in the back, but I'm struggling to see how he will respond immediately to the Kartana, especially if Ajit decides to protect it this turn.
Okay, so he's going ahead and preserve his fake out pressure and bring in the Snorlax right now. I'm expecting possibly him to be able to eat up that Leaf Blade a little bit more than the Scrafty.
Gothitelle went for the Protect. Snorlax took that substantial amount of damage on the switch in. It ate the Figgy Berry. Now what's going to be annoying for Alvin is Leaf Blade plus a fighting move from Scrafty into the Snorlax slot will take it out, but will also take out the Scrafty on the switch in.
So that slot's kind of in a really bad spot for Alvin. The Gothitelle at this point can essentially be ignored, right? You can just kind of let it do whatever it's going to do. It is slower, you don't have Trick Room up.
HP Fairy's not a real move, so it's not like Goth can actually hit Scrafty. I think that Ajit's goal is to get rid of the Snorlax and then try to win the game with his back Scrafty, back Tapu Fini, things like that. They aren't taking any damage from opposing Scrafties or Gothitelle, so it looks like Ajit's in the driving seat, though Goth switching into Scrafty to take Intimidate to help Snorlax live this attack is a valiant effort by Alvin. I don't think it'll matter.
Yeah, I think it was really his only play to kind of mitigate the damage and the chance, turning guarantees into rolls as much as possible. But actually going for the Leaf Blade onto that slot, doing around 50%, and actually doubling into that slot with the foul play as well. So the Snorlax actually goes, untouched right there, and the frustration going to go ahead and pick up the KO on the Kartana.
I really strongly disagree with that play, and the reason I do is that Gothitelle really wasn't threatening the endgame if you were able to remove Snorlax. Now I get he might have been scared of Trick Room coming out of the Goth and then Snorlax switching into Scrafty, Scrafty getting fainted, Snorlax coming back. But since Ajit just revealed the foul play on his own Scrafty, even if Trick Room is up and Snorlax sets up the +6, he can always pressure it with the foul play. So I think he just prioritized the incorrect Pokemon.
Yeah, that slot was essentially, some Snorlaxes do, but a majority of Snorlaxes do not carry Protect.
Right.
And as you were saying earlier, the amount of damage that he was going to be able to put out to that slot, since he had already procced the berry, was going to be substantial. So whatever was in that slot, fighting move plus Leaf Blade,
we see where Scrafty's at. It just took the damage, but if that foul play was instead a low kick, for example, it might have been knocked out. But now we see Alvin has a chance with his own fake out pressure, with Snorlax being able to recycle its berry if it has that, with Gothitelle in the back essentially unharmed. Alvin looks like he crawled his way back into the game.
Yeah, so the Manectric is going to come in here. No electric terrain to give it that little bit of a boost, but Manectric never short on damage.
Always short on damage.
I mean, that Pokemon does a decent amount of damage.
135 special attack is essentially 3. What gen are you playing, Tito?
Look, man, I think Mega Manectric does the right amount of damage. It's not it's not an extensive amount. I mean, obviously Kartana and Scrafty are going to do a little bit more in the long game, but Manectric does a reasonable amount of damage. Not the tiny.
You just said Scrafty does more damage in the Mega. That mon does nothing.
No. What I'm saying is that Scrafty and Kartana do more consistent damage overall, but the Manectric is not something you can just kind of ignore, right? It's definitely a source of damage that you have to address. But in this specific scenario, the Manectric is not really doing much without that boost.
Yeah, on the last turn, Scrafty fake out of the Tapu Fini's Manectric came in and Snorlax recycled its berry. Now Scrafty's going back to Gothitelle to recycle the trapping, though that's not going to do too much Manectric's Volt Switch. Hydro Pump to the Snorlax, not an often seen move on Tapu Fini, but absolutely on that Tapu Fini. Snorlax eats that right up. Volt Switch back into the Scrafty. That's why I disagree with the play that Ajit chose before to prioritize the Gothitelle, because now when Snorlax comes back, Snorlax comes swinging.
Yeah, and so I see what Ajit's trying to do here. He's really trying to cycle out those Intimidates, get from, you know, Scrafty to Manectric and back as much as possible. But at this point, you know, Snorlax isn't doing really that much damage. Now the question is, can Alvin afford to go for the belly drum setup here, or is he just trying to pump out as much damage as he possibly can now that he has the Gothitelle out?
Right. I mean, with all of those Intimidates onto the Snorlax, is not doing anything, but they all go away with the belly drum once he's said. So it seems like if, in this situation, while Ajit has a live fake out, nothing is damaging the Snorlax per se, but it's still not safe for Alvin to set up. He can eat a foul play next turn if he sets up out of Trick Room, and he can eat a foul play the same turn he belly drums if he sets up Trick Room. So it seems like he's forced to just pump out frustrations.
Yeah.
But if we look at the your time on the players, it might be the route that Alvin takes to just cycle out damage and recycle his Snorlax and things like that to eat up Ajit's your time.
So the fake out going to go onto the Gothitelle, frustration going to go in and he actually doubled up on the Gothitelle, getting okay damage right there as well, trying to limit the amount of switching that's going to be happening on the side of Alvin. But, you know, again, the Snorlax at this point is just being able to get consistent damage off the Hydro Pumping for the third time in a row, going onto that Gothitelle slug, dropping to about 45%.
Yeah.
And here comes the foul play.
It hits the Goth as well, but it's at like minus 84, so it's not going to do that much damage. But Croc's the Wiki Berry, presumably. I know it's a Wiki because it's also the team I used today.
Yeah.
But, and poorly at that, didn't make cut. But we see Alvin just keep going for chip damage, but I don't think he's trying to set up the drum. I think he's just trying to get out excessively weak attacks until Ajit runs out of time.
Yeah, and also, I mean, at what point the Snorlax has a berry now with a recycle. It's going to be able to, you know, you don't want to sacrifice that time as long as the Scrafty's there. To invest a whole turn into the belly drum when you could just be pumping out damage, especially since Finny is already at like what 30% roughly. So you know, at this point, especially since you have Trick Room, just start pumping out damage as much as you can, and you're gonna be able to pick up the KO next turn. And here comes the Heal Pulse.
Heal Pulse on the Snorlax seems to almost wrap this game up for Alvin, just because now, unless the Gothitelle goes down and the Scrafty goes down, Gothitelle can keep on heal pulsing the partner to take as much time as possible. Snorlax can stall with Recycle. Scrafty can come in and use fake out turns. Tapu Fini's locked in the Hydro Pump isn't doing anything. It seems to be difficult for Ajit to take away the game with enough time to do so.
Yeah, but the thing is now you run the risk. Let's say Tapu Fini switches back into the Manectric slot, right?
You can't.
Oh, right, because of the arena trap, right?
Yeah.
So
he's locked in the Hydro Pump, waiting until he thinks.
Yeah. So now what would you do is you pick up the frustration, pick up the KO. You can't really do anything about that. But the Scrafty, does he try to go in damage on the Snorlax, or do you just try to hit the Gothitelle, right? Because you're just gonna go for another heal pulse. But he opts to switch out here into the Scrafty,
which can also take a heal pulse from the Gothitelle, making it even more likely for Scrafty and Gothitelle and Snorlax to stall out Ajit until time runs out. The Intimidate lowers the low kick damage if that's what it's going for. Opted not to go for the heal pulse, but knowing that nothing would knock out the Scrafty this turn, and being able to heal pulse next turn for free against the Manectric Scrafty, especially with live fake out. I think Ajit at this point should be considering what adjustments to make for turn 2. I think the turn that slipped away for Ajit was when he chose to prioritize the Gothitelle instead of the Snorlax when he had the driving seat with Kartana. Now he knows that +1 Kartana is not going to take a not faint to a foul play. So I think that Ajit needs to use that knowledge with the Kartana and put out more pressure with the Kartana. Since Tapu Fini's Choice Scarf, we often see that means it has Soak for both Manectric and Kartana, so that can put out a lot more damage as well, a lot more pressure onto Alvin's team. Maybe not let himself get trapped doing minimal damage to Gothitelle, which is what that team does really great at responding to.
Yeah, and especially since, although he did set up the light screen, a majority of the damage that would have been trying to hit the Snorlax is physical, right? So a lot of his win condition was physical, so the light screen actually didn't come into play a whole lot. And especially since Snorlax and Scrafty aren't Pokemon known for carrying Protect. correct.
Yeah.
In that specific scenario, you have to really take advantage of the fact that, wow, the chances are that he has Protect is very low. I really need to pick up the KO here. And it just, the ability to kind of make those, this is one small decision to actually get Alvin the opportunity to really capitalize on it.
That single turn, let him come back in.
Here comes the heel pulse once again on the Scrafty, going to be able to bring that guy all the way up to full HP, and the low kick, just trading blows back and forth with the foul play.
We'll finally take out the Goth.
There it is, and now what the Manectric is going to do, probably maybe a Thunderbolt Flamethrower or something. Oh, okay, going for the Volt Switch instead.
Goes straight into the Tapu Fini, which does retain the Moonblast Oko pressure on the Scrafty, but considering if there was more time in the game, this could be something that Ajit could take back. He could take a low kick crit against the Snorlax, something of that nature to make it go away. But with this much time, it seems Tapu Fini fainted.
Oh, right.
So it's just Volt Switch. Sorry. Yeah. So Volt Switch just stays in. I don't think there's really a way for Ajit to take out this game one.
Oh, Scrafty is going to take a low kick as well as another Volt Switch. Yeah. The low kick going to come through on his side of the field. Now, the Snorlax is just going to go ahead and use the Recycle, basically giving him that insurance for the game here with the Eye Papa Berry in the back pocket. You know, it's just. At that point, it's just sealing up the game right there. As long as you pick up the KO on the Scrafty. Yeah.
Now, something interesting to note from Alvin's team is looking at the 4 that he chose. None of the Pokemon have Z moves on this set of the 4, and there's no Mega out of those 4. So the mode that he chose to bring, Tapu Koko, at this point in the game, we are confirmed that's Light Clay. Scrafty's damage output, while we're not sure, is most likely a defensive move item, such as a Berry or an Assault Vest. We've never really seen Z moves or something like that. Goth, we saw Wiki Berry, and Snorlax, we know Aya Papa. So it just seems like he's using regular Pokemon and their regular abilities which means that he has such strong room for adjustments as well. With Landorus T and Metagross that he chose not to bring, it's pretty much confirmed then that Lando probably has a Z move and that Metagross is a Mega. Yeah. And that means Ajit, while he might think he can pressure with the Kartana this next game, might have to be wary of the Metagross. Yeah. Might have to be wary of the Landorus and Double Intimidate and things like that.
Well, the Metagross could... I don't know how much the Metagross would have actually... I mean, the way Alvin played, he really was able to capitalize on that one specific turn and really play around his Snorlax. So good stuff to him. He's going to be able to take game number 1. Yeah.
Funnily enough, he didn't even need time. He took out all 4 mons. Yeah. 9 seconds left on Ajit's side.
So... there is Alvin with game number 1. Now, if you were in Ajit's situation...
and I've been in this situation many a time because that is my team.
So considering how familiar you are with that team, what adjustments would you try to make here, given the fact that you know what Alvin is kind of running?
I don't know if I would have made an extraordinary amount of adjustments. I think the bigger thing is I would have chosen my targets differently. The other 2 Pokemon on Ajit's side of the field that he has options to pick are his own Snorlax and Porygon 2. And while Snorlax seems like it would be a really good pick, Alvin also has the Scrafty Lando Snorlax situation to threaten it, and I think Ajit chose probably correctly to prioritize the grass type attacks on it, which is reasonable, but knowing that he has Kartana and that outside of Metagross, Alvin doesn't really have a switch into Kartana, I think he needs to protect the Kartana more substantially. Yeah. So probably use the fact that he has Volt Switch to get out of Shadow Tag to his advantage, while putting on pressure with Kartana.
Yeah, I definitely think that Kartana is probably the anchor of this team in this matchup specifically. Yeah. It really is able to deal out a lot of consistent damage to a lot of the mons outside of the Metagross.
This Leaf Blade going through just hits things pretty hard. Now I do get there's a wrinkle in that. There's a wrinkle in that plan, considering that Shadow Tag forcing Kartana in against, if he had Goth Metagross, for example, might be a very sad situation. But then you can choose to hit the Gothitelle. It's just the moments where Goth is the threat is when you have to prioritize it. But when it's next to Snorlax, which is eating you alive, get rid of it.
Yeah. So here we go. Ajit gonna go ahead and go for the same lead, Manectric and Tapu Fini, and actually the same leads here for both players. And to be honest, this is something we kind of alluded to and expected. It wasn't really a composition thing. I think Ajit seems to be a little bit more aware of what his priorities and his targeting and his prioritization of targets need to be. And Alvin, obviously, he won game 1. He was able to bring that back as his that 4 that he brought was so good at pivoting and really, being able
That's
to
what that
play
team
around
excels
one.
at.
Yeah.
But Alvin does need to be wary, right? Because he did see how much damage he took from the Kartana when it happened, and should be scared if he doesn't have Metagross in the back to actually
Take those hits.
deal with the Kartana, absolutely. Especially since Ajit is smartly not leading with it, so it doesn't take an Intimidate. Scrafty is the live fake out, but it also risks the Oko against Tapu Fini.
Yeah.
And if Manectric doesn't Mega Evolve, like we said, Tapu Fini's not taking an electric move from the Koko, but Ajit switches out the Fini anyways, not trying a repeat of turn 1, really.
And the Kartana will come back in on turn number 1.
Scrafty switches out on Alvin's side of the field, switching into the Snorlax, probably trying to predict a Moonblast from the Tapu Fini as Alvin goes for a Light Screen this game, similarly going for the same screen as last time. Ajit chooses not to Mega Evolve, going for the Volt Switch, probably trying to protect his Tapu Fini from electric moves later in the game, presumably switching back out to the Tapu Fini to preserve that pressure with the Kartana if it has Soak, or we'll see his 4th Pokemon.
So the Kartana is on the field again, and this Kartana is actually in a very good position, and here comes the Scrafty.
Especially now with Scrafty.
The fake out pressure as well as
Right.
the foul play pressure. Ajit's in a really good position here,
Yeah.
much better than game number 1 at the very outset of this game. Now, we even have some chip damage on this Tapu Koko as well, which threatens the KO now for sure, especially with that Bloom Doom.
Right.
So,
And we've seen 3 moves on the Koko. We've seen 2 screens, probably. Or I guess not seen, but at least we can extrapolate. 2 screens and an electric move. So Alvin has to have either Protect, Dazzling Gleam, or something else, right? So Scrafty can fake out into the Koko pretty safely, but if it goes into Scrafty, which it did not, it went into Gothitelle. If it went into Scrafty, then Ajit's Kartana would have reduced damage, but if he chose not to do so, then we see what the, double switch. Scrafty went to, Snorlax went to Scrafty, reducing the damage output, trying to keep Kartana reduced, which is reasonable, but we'd probably see a Bloom Doom coming into the Goth.
Yeah, definitely. And the Kartana will indeed activate that Z crystal right there. Now, into the Goth.
Well, what was there before? It was the Koko, right? And I think he's thinking that in the safest, he fake out of that slot too, right? He didn't want another screen setup. He didn't want to risk a Dazzling Gleam. We're probably going to see a fake out Bloom Doom right there. Because of the Intimidate, it's most likely going to proc the Berry. I don't think that's enough to proc the Berry. Okay.
So that's actually best case scenario, right? Because now you're still able to pick up the
Is
KO
it?
possibly with a Leaf Blade -1, maybe?
I think it's going to be close.
It might be close, but I mean, it's rather this and have a chance for a roll just with the KO rather than proc the Berry.
Actually, I feel like I might disagree, just because you could get, if you proc the Berry for sure, and then if we're at 2 Leaf Blades to knock it out, regardless, we don't have to resolve that contingency because Gothitelle switches out to Tapu Koko, freeing both Scrafty and Kartana from Shadow Tag. Not sure I agree with that, just because Alvin had a lot of pressure, ironically, with just the Pokemon he had on the field because of the reduced damage. Now Kartana can switch out, get its attack back, and Ajit can try to, for example, respond again with Tapu Fini, and then pivot Kartana back in, and then maybe use more grass moves, more fairy moves, like just get out damage.
I think now Tapu Koko is in a pretty good position to set up a screen.
Right. I think we will see a Reflect almost 100%.
I think Reflect is probably the one because the Light Screen, although it was nice for Fini damage, the
And
real
Manectric.
threat,
And Electric turning.
Yeah, but the real threat here is that Kartana and that Scrafty, so you really want to get that physical defense boost for your
We really should. So we see Ajit smartly protecting Kartana from an electric move, bringing him Manectric and preserving Volt Switch in case Goth comes in. Alvin goes for the Reflect like we assumed. Leaf Blade comes through, high crit chance. We might see that come into play, not in that instance, but whatever. Foul Play goes into Kartana. It's at -1, so it should be like 35%. Oh, that's more than I thought it would.
Yeah. Bringing him to about 55.
Foul Play at this range will not knock out the Kartana without a critical hit, which can be something that Ajit relies on. I think he might want to pivot around a little bit with his Volt Switch and switch out Kartana, the reset attack boost. Maybe switch Cart to Fini, Volt Switch back to Cart, something of that nature to actually threaten damage.
Kartana is -1. It's in a very weird position at the moment.
It lives the Foul Play, but it doesn't do anything.
So actually, he's going to withdraw the Tapu Koko back and pivoting around into the Gothitelle to bring in and really lock down the switches. So unless he went for the Volt switch,
Kartana switches probably into the Scrafty, which is fine. If he Volt switches into the Gothitelle slot, then the Berry will proc. If into the Scrafty slot, we might see something interesting. Ajit goes for the Mega Evolution to get Intimidate to reduce Scrafty's low kick damage. Not foul play, in case you were unaware. But, not you, but viewers at home. I know of your brilliance. Volt switch into a Goth, though, would knock it out, actually.
Oh, okay. But actually, so went for the Snarl. He's going to proc the Berry right there.
Why would he do that? Why would he do that?
Well, okay, so what was there before? Was the Coco over there before?
I mean, I guess
Coco, but the thing is, in this game specifically, Coco is not a special attack, correct?
No,
so I am not entirely sure what the Snarl is there.
I would have Volt switched the Coco and then brought in the Feeny, and I'm not unbelievably happy with that play.
Well, because here's the thing, so he's only shown Volt switch. I don't believe he's shown another electric type. Right?
On Coco?
Oh, no, on Manectric.
Yeah, Manectric has only seen Volt Switch.
So the Volt Switch in electric terrain
would have done damage.
It might have actually.
I think it would have knocked. Well, Light Screen is up, but considering
Reflect is up.
And Light Screen from before, he set up Light Screen.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So if we can extrapolate from damage, that Volt Switch
that would have been.
That would have knocked it out.
Yeah.
That would have knocked it out if he went for a Volt Switch instead of a Snarl.
Especially in terrain, but unfortunately that was not the case. Ajit going for the Volt Switch on Alvin's Gothitelle. And
probably back into the Feeny.
Yeah. To threaten the KO pressure onto the Scrafty and also setting up his own terrain here. The Misty Surge going to come through. Foul play onto the Gothitelle more than likely. Here we go.
Yeah.
Doing a decent. That did a lot less.
Well, Goth is at like minus $1 billion, and it's taking. It probably has like 0 attack IVs and whatever, and a negative. It's either like a minus speed nature or minus special attack, but it'll influence it. Trick Room goes up, which prevents Tapu Fini, funnily the fastest thing on the field and in the game, from doing that much damage. But we have to recognize Alvin really needs to protect the Gothitelle. It's eaten its berry. It's eaten its berry already. We hear a situation where the so the Gothitelle can be protected. Gothitelle can stop itself from fainting by switching out or by using Protect and being intelligent in that regard. Fortunately for Ajit, the saving grace is nothing really hits either of his Pokemon on the field right now. So Alvin seems to have to switch to get damage outplay and
Okay, so he's just going to go ahead and switch onto the Tapu Koko. First Blood has not been done yet, right?
No
Pokemon have actually fallen quite yet, but the terrain war will continue. The electric terrain will come, as well as the heal pool is going to bring Tapu Koko all the way up to around 80%.
That was a really strong heal pulse because it seemed as if a Moonblast into the Scrafty slot was likely. So if that happened and Ajit double targeted that on the switch in, it would have knocked out the Coco, but Ajit decided to double target the Gothitelle, prioritizing it correctly as the threat this game, and putting it actually still into foul play range or Moonblast range.
Definitely.
And that helps Ajit out a lot when a strong gust of wind will take out the Gothitelle at this point. Psychic probably into the Feeny to put it into Volt. I don't even know if that is in Volt Switch range.
No, I don't think so.
Right.
But the foul play will be able to pick up the KO. It will.
Yes,
so
Goth is
blood
gone.
Goes to Ajit with the KO over on Gothitelle with the Volt Switch.
This has been an interesting game so far. Feeny takes a Volt Switch. Not a crit, I think. It wasn't a crit.
No.
But considering that Coco is apparently not trained very heavily into special attack, or Feeny's a bulky Scarfer, we don't know. Feeny lives with 10 HP, gets a Moonblast on Snorlax. Not going to do that much because of the Light Screen, but every amount counts.
And the Light Screen actually is wearing off now, so okay news. Obviously, like we've been saying, it's really the physical damage that's really anchored for Ajit's team at the moment. The Coco will come in with the possibility of either setting up the new screens, or actually at this point, Alvin could also just go on the offensive here because he threatens both of these mons with either fairy type moves.
If he has Dazzling Gleam, it would be amazing to press now.
Or if he has, he obviously has shown the Volt Switch as well.
Right.
Snorlax is actually in a really good position here.
Yeah.
He can either switch out to the Scrafty, and that would be okay, predicting not a Moonblast there. or he can just go for the belly jump if he really wanted
Well,
to.
you have to consider the fact that Trick Room is out, so Snorlax goes for a belly jump to beat a foul play from Scrafty, though Reflect will keep it from being knocked out in doing so. But you have to play around the Trick Room. Now that Gothithel's fainted, Snorlax doesn't have favorable speed when Trick Room runs out. Ajit switches Tapu Fini into Manectric, choosing not to deal with the situation. Alvin resets up the light screen, but eats a frustration from the Snorlax and takes a low kick into the Snorlax. So a lot of interesting things. I think Ajit got the plus in that situation.
Yeah, I think so too. He was able to get out his Intimidate out as well as his own electric type to threaten even more damage onto the Snorlax slot. His Scrafty is essentially at full HP.
Right.
So this is a pretty good position for Ajit right now. But the thing is, Alvin does have a lot of options in this scenario, right? His Reflect is still up.
Yeah.
So
last turn of Trick Room.
Yeah, so last turn Trick Room, so he's still in that position. Now, I really like his Protect coming in from Ajit as well. Being able to, just mitigate that last turn Trick Room, being like, all right.
I don't actually.
Oh, wait.
I feel like you wanted to get Volt Switch damage onto the Snorlax. I feel like you wanted to do some more stuff that turn. The Protects, as we see, didn't really do anything because no one targeted the Manectric, but I think I would have attacked if I was in that slot. What Ajit needs to worry about in particular, though, is while I think in the late game he would take out all of Alvin's Pokemon, his time is really low, and all of those Mons are really bulky. So I think he needs to bring in the Kartana, bring in the Tapu Fini, and get that sort of offense going as quickly as possible. Trick Room is over, so that's good news for Ajit. But
now that Alvin has the fake out pressure right now with his newly brought in Scrafty, Manectric. Though he does have the electric terrain, I don't know if I'm switching with Fini at this exact moment.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Or maybe. It's at like 10 HP. Don't do that. Yeah.
So I would just bring in KC. Oh, well, he's actually going to end up switching it in.
No fear from Mr. Unnam over here.
Right.
We do need to be wary of Ajit's time. I know I keep bringing it up, but that's a very important element of this new format. No fake outs coming through. Volt Switch going in for free, taking a critical hit on the Scrafty, but doing about 3% in the process. Probably going back into his Scrafty of his own to threaten the Snorlax and the other Scrafty. If we see damage going to Fini of any kind, it will faint. But choosing to go into Kartana instead, not being afraid of low kick, not predicting a foul play into that slot, but needing to get okay.
The foul play going to come in and actually be able to pick up the KO as well as the frustration.
Yeah.
Going to pick up 2 KOs back to back, and Alvin, a really dominant turn right there.
Yeah.
Able to pick up 2 KOs in a scenario where we didn't even think he was going to
Alvin took a double knockout in a turn I didn't even think that was possible. I don't know if I really agree with bringing Cart there, kind of sort of at all. Kartana being the win condition for the late game, making it I don't feel like that was the greatest switch in, just because, well, one, it got knocked out, but two, Scrafty wasn't losing anything by coming in there, preserving fake out pressure. Then you, even after Tapu Fini faints, then you can bring Kartana back in. You can fake out the Scrafty, preventing foul play from knocking out your Kartana, and then Leaf Blading the other Scrafty, and then putting it into Leaf Blade range thereafter. Cycling Intimidate.
There's just a lot of other options that we could have gone. That's probably best case scenario
for Alvin. I don't even know why he would make that read is the thing, because that read relies on a bit of a misplay.
Yeah, I think in that scenario specifically, given the fact that Alvin or Ajit did have 4 Pokemon, the chances of a switch was likely, right? In that scenario, we knew he was switching.
Right.
We thought he was switching into the Scrafty, right? So, the foul play, I can see why he might want to attack in that slot. Why he chose foul play specifically, I couldn't tell.
Regardless, it worked out really well for him. Though the Saving Grace's electric terrain boosts Scrafty's damage output, but the Manectric's damage output. But if the Scrafty eats like a Gleam, which we don't know the 4th move on the Coco, it will eat something from the Coco, and that'll prevent it really from low kicking Alvin Snorlax, which is going to come back in here, probably to eat the Volt Switch from the Manectric and Procket's Berry, which is what we don't see happening. We might see a low kick into that slot. That will be Ajit's chance to come back.
Well, he will live the Volt Switch coming in, as well as the Scrafty going to make its return.
We need to see a low kick crit from Ajit into the Snorlax and have a chance to take out this game in the 30 seconds he has left to do so. If there's a low kick crit, there's a chance. Otherwise, the game's probably over.
Intimidate going to drop that attack. The
That's-
Stone Edge is not going to be able to pick up the KO on the Scrafty, unfortunately. So now we have fake out pressure, and the Snorlax is basically free to roam.
Right.
And only 23 seconds left on Ajit's timer.
No, I think you just fake out the Scrafty, frustration the Scrafty, and end the game with your Snorlax beating Manectric, because that's what Snorlax does best. Snorlax looks at that other dog and says, "You are not allowed on my lawn."
Volt switch going to come through.
Not
Not
gonna
going
do
to be
anything.
enough, but will proc the berry instead. Snorlax will have a late night snack in this late long series actually, only for game 2. But the Scrafty going to flinch. Frustration going onto that Scrafty slot and secure that KO
Right.
and basically the game.
I think there's no way that a Manectric can take out 3 different Pokemon in 12 seconds, one of which being a Snorlax. So, congratulations to Alvin for making top 4. Closing in on his World's Invite at about 400 something right now. Great showing from Ajit, showing that after my team can win a regional, it can also cut an MSS.
Yeah, and he's going to be walking away with some points as well.
Yeah, more than me. So I have no right to criticize. I won 2 sets, and one was against a bye.
Okay, but you bodied the bye.
I bodied the
bodied the
bye.
buys.
It had no chance.
So hopefully we're gonna quickly transition over into top 4 here. So guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully we will be back very, very soon with
I've
top
got
4.
2 more hours with this beautiful man, so if you want to stick around to see these faces in tandem, Tito KMF is looking at you.
We'll see you soon.
Yep.